So my name is Brent Thomas with Dead Ringers, and our special guest today is Welton Hong. Welton, say hello.
Hello.
So, Welton and I have been talking for days about this. Not really. I say that jokingly with it. We have been, but we are really here. If you guys have questions and thoughts, we just want to have a good conversation. We got a few slides. We hope to get to them. If we don't, that's okay. If you have any questions like that are technical, like my sound's not working or something, Mandy's in the background, that would be Q&A. But anything else, any comments, thoughts, concerns, fun jokes, whatever it is you have for the day, we ask that you do that in the chat. Last time, we had a good conversation back and forth. A lot of folks putting things in the chat. So we want to give you that opportunity to have that conversation as well. So today, right, the topic really is, it's the crossover. Ring, ring makes your phone ring. The question is, are you winning all those calls? What are you doing with those calls? And that's where Dead Ringers comes in, and we have the customer experience knowledge to help you gain those calls. So that's where we want to go today. So what we want to do too is just teach an education balance of some of the things, give you a few tricks, not so much an infomercial for either one of us. It's how do we give you some tips and let you explain a little bit about what we do. So with that, we're going to let Welton get started.
Thank you, Brent. Let me share my screen here. Okay, almost there.
No worries.
God. Perfect. Yeah, so for today, I really want to go over a little bit more context as to how to gain more market share, especially going to 2026 and on. As we know, right, the whole COVID, right, bump, and then we got the whole pulled forward effect. But if we look towards the future, it should be very bright with the right baby boomers contributing to death rate. And most likely that will really happen in the end of this decade. It's coming, right? Time is now to really start gaining market share. And strategies come and go. That's why today I want to spend some time as to what's proven to work and this whole AI, right? How is it going to impact search? How is it going to impact a lot of different things? So that way you guys are a little more prepared going into 2026. But before I go over that, let me just go over very, very basic things over here, which is very, very layman terms. Sorry for doing this. I love arrows, so it's super layman terms. So first of all, is the assumption is if we don't do anything. If you don't do anything, most likely call volume will steadily go down. It's just because there's more competition coming in. You got more and more direct cremation businesses coming in. And versus, I'll just give you an example, versus pre-COVID versus now, I see most firms these days doing some form of marketing, whether it's more offline, more digital. So the overall thing here is if you just stay stagnant, hopefully that's not you, most likely call volume will go down. And well, now, unfortunately, cremation is on the rise. So that means, again, if you don't do anything, overall revenue per call will slowly go down. What this means is overall revenue will be down, trending down. And well, no, we don't love the extra inflation, all these extra expenses, right? Of course. And now we're all right in this period where our overall net profit is down. And that does not look fun at all. So what we want to do is try to figure out how to increase all these numbers, right? Of course, the easiest way is to grow your call volume. That's really is to grow your market share, and how to increase your revenue per call. That's where, right, Brent, right, Dead Ringers really come in to educate, right, the families on the phone, right? And overall is to how to really, right, to our best ability to stay flat with our expenses or decrease a little bit by moving out some marketing spend or, right, make it more efficient, right, with the phone conversions, then the call volume naturally goes up, right? So this is the whole theme, is how do we grow the overall net profit? Again, we'll talk about call volume, but at the end of the day, it's the net profit that we all do care more about, right? Especially some of you are in retirement age. Some of you are thinking, hey, in the next few years, we might right, need to hand off the funeral home even to your funeral directors, or right to, you might want to sell, but everything really ties back to that net profit, right? Your EBITDA, that's how, right, your X amount, how to value your funeral home is really based on this number here. So this is the overall goal. First of all, I want to go over strategies with you. Is first of all, we got to figure out how to defend our turf. That's outrageous critical. Is how do we make sure we're defending and maintaining market share? Then we'll talk about how to obviously want to capture and gain market share, right? But to me, most firms kind of ignored the first part, is to protect. You got to protect your turf. Then we'll grow. Okay. So let's really talk about the overall strategies here. These days, there's really not one holy grail. I wish there's one. There's really not. And that's why it's getting more and more difficult, is you got to be deploying both offline and online. And this really is offline is just as critical ever. When I say offline, for example, your old school direct mails, those still do work. Community outreach, hospices is a really, really big deal. If you have not really networked with your local hospices, you have to, because more than 50% of death do occur through hospices, and that should continue to trend up then. So you really got to really network with your local hospices, right? Those are all offline. Eventually, even hospice referral, they go online to look you up. That's why these days you got to be deploying both, right? They really go hand in hand. I really wish there's one strategy that will, right, make it happen, but it's a combination of everything here then. Thus, overall, there's a lot of confusion these days though. There's always new strategies or new things that come out, right? And my job here is, as you're starting to look into 2026, is really kind of help you put together a map together on how to really, right, what other strategies you should be focusing on. And there's always new tactics, new strategies that come and go, but the overall journey is still the same. So let me really explain this a little more in detail. The at-needs versus pre-needs are very, very different strategies. And today I'm mainly going to be focusing on at-needs then. Okay, and people want us to talk about pre-needs. Brent and I, Brent probably has a lot more experience on pre-needs than I do, but today I want to mainly focus on at-needs then. So if we look at overall at-needs, there's really not that many strategies, which to me is also kind of nice. There's not that many strategies. So the easiest way to gain market share is to really be in front of those who are already looking for you. They're already imminent need, near need. So using old, right, just using a old, let's go back. Actually, Brent, let's play a quick game over here. Let's make it conversation up between you and I.
Okay.
Hopefully it's not your leaky roof. Back in the 90s, how do you look up roofing companies back in the 90s or 80s?
Oh, yeah, that had to be the phone book, right? The yellow pages?
Exactly. Right, we're imminent need, right, or problem where we go straight to the phone book, right? Even within the phone book, like I'm just always curious now, Brent, how do you know which roofing companies to call? There's so many of them. How do you know which one to call?
Good point, right? Typically, you're going to look at something that's got the ad or bold, something that makes it stand out.
Exactly, right? So even within the phone book, there's ways, it's so crowded, all of your competitors on there, right? There's ways to make you stand out. Larger ads, you put unique selling proposition on the ad copy. Some try to hack the system by changing their name to be AAAA1 roofing company, right? So again, that's SEO, but right, a search engine optimization in a way. So even within the phone book, it's very, very competitive, but how do you make it stand out, right? So, but there's one strategy within the phone book is typically the ones that's more branded, right? They see you everywhere. They see you on TV, radio, newspaper, they use the phone book more like a white pages, right? Oh, I heard of ABC roofing company. I'm going to call them, right? So I never. That's why that overall branding is outraged critical. Okay. How about Brent? How about today? Just how do you look up roofing companies then?
Yeah, it's just going to be a Google search,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah,
Most likely, right? Most
yeah.
likely, we're just going to go
We're just-
straight. Yeah, with our little tiny phone in
Yep.
Google roofing companies near me, right?
Yep.
Not social media, right? That's the big difference. Problem where imminent need, we typically go straight to Google.
Yep.
So that's why, again, nothing unique to death care. If a family is looking for a funeral home, they go on Google, they type in funeral home near me, cremation near me, right? So that's why search is still king. I'll talk a lot more about how is search evolving, but that's why Google is the default choice if you want to grow ethnic calls, not social media, right? But we all do care about sending traffic to your website, but eventually all traffic, more or less offline, online, they all come to your website. Thus, the better the website, because you're in that evaluation stage. You're trying to figure out who you are, what you do, how are you different? Like families, how do you know which funeral home to call? Of course, they're going to do their due diligence to see which one to call first. So typically, the better the website, content-wise, right, and also being mobile friendly, the more likely they're going to call you. But these days, just to continue on the journey before they call you, most likely I can bet you they're trusting, they're really relying on these Google reviews to guide their decisions as to which one to call, right? Even hospice referral, there's a sheet under there might be 3 firms. They're still going to do their due diligence, go on the website, check the reviews to know which one to call, right? So I'll really go over these 3 ones I circled, but ultimately, as you can tell, right, most likely your phone's ringing already, right? All these are means to make your phone ring more often. But if you're not used to, right, again, digitally, it's going to be a little bit different, right? Because they do not know you. That's why they're researching. So most likely a lot of these calls are going to be, right, trending in the next few years. You're going to bet you're going to get more internet type of leads, right? Phone calls. If you don't know how to convert them, most likely your competitors, whoever is better trained to answer these so-called shopping calls, they're going to be win these cases. So this is the very, very outrageously basic funnel over here. Somehow you got to make sure you're found on Google, have a high converting website, stellar reviews, and of course knowing how to answer these so-called shopping calls. So let me really talk a little more on how search works and what's evolving, just so that way you guys get a little more prepared then. So if we look at search these days, most likely when you are Googling, you see 3 distinct areas you can market your business. And they're all very, very different. There's actually a 4th area that just came back. I'll explain that shortly. So typically right at the top, you have these Google ads, right? And sometimes folks call this pay-per-click ads, but these are ads. Right below that is my favorite second of all, because it's free. What Google does is it recommends 3 of the best funeral homes nearby, 3 of the best plumbers nearby, right? What Google does is only choose 3 of the best local business nearby. And how does Google know which firm to be listed in here? Unfortunately, it's based on a set algorithm, because to me, it's still not fair, because they're not physically calling each firm and interviewing you. So it's a little bit biased towards those firms that kind of know how search works. So I'll kind of go over what we do know so far and what's to come. Lastly is this section down here, which is called organic search, which is very often you might hear people call this SEO, search engine optimization. Layman terms is how highly ranked is your website. Okay, so 3 distinct areas. Let's talk about pay-per-click ads. This is typically the biggest question I get is, should we do ads or should we not do ads? And this really comes down to two different scenarios here. These days, in most metro area, what you will see are 4 ads already, because there's only maximum of 4 ads at the top, 3 towards the bottom. And these ads, you can see, I don't love them, first of all, because they're more or less in your face, right? You can see the little map section is pushed down. SEO organ is further pushed down. And I always laugh about this. Brent, is Google for profit or nonprofit?
I believe they're for profit.
Exactly, right? I don't know ads, but 80% of Google's revenue, they're ultra rich, right? So most of their revenue come from these ad clicks, right? People do click on these. I don't, because I know these ads, but most families, they do not know these are ads. So that's why folks still do click on these ads. Knowing families do click on these ads, there's really 2 ways to look at these ads. If you're in a mature, let's say you're very well mature in your local area, very well branded, right? How we look at these ads is to protect your market share. You don't want other direct cremation businesses or the businesses to come in here and right, because these are right at the top though. You still got to protect your market share. So for mature firms, I typically still guide them to still run these ads. It's more to protect and fend out. You got to have a nice, right, moat around your local area then. So, but for most of us, obviously we want to grow market share. And this where easily can do ad placement in here. And I always say, folks, do not Google these keywords for, sorry for saying this, for fun, right? It's not one of those events. So whoever is Googling these very high intent keywords, they're really most likely very, very eminent need, near need. If they do click on your ad and go on your site, it's about how good is your website and do you know how to convert these phone calls. Okay. So this is the first section, is the ads. With ads, couple guidances here. What I guide is I tend to see funeral homes target a very, very large area. That means the ad spend get dispersed. And I would really shrink this, if I were you, down to zip codes or city names, or you can do a 5-mile radius, right? It's all of us, it's like, hey, let's target a very large area, but realistically, our family is going to drive across a town to your funeral home, right? So I tend to love to really, right, since we all have finite ad spend, I tend to love to do a little bit more geo-targeting, finer, okay? And then there's a new kit in town. And the new kit in town is called local services ads. This is above the standard Google ads. This has actually been out since 2015, just newer to funeral homes. So back in 2015, Google's like, hey, we gotta really compete now with Home Advisors and Angie's List, right? Both of these were separate companies back then. They're like, hey, we got more traffic than Home Advisors and Angie's List, and plumbers, as an example, right? Trades, they're used to buying leads. They want leads. They don't want clicks. They want leads. So that's when Google engineered this new section here, is you can see it just to make your phone ring. That's it. That's a phone call, right? So once they tap this, your phone rings. So basically similar to NG's, right? Home Advisor. These plumbers are buying leads, right? So this been working out well. And 2 years ago is when Google introduced this to funeral homes. So it's been out for about 2 years and haven't seen too many funeral homes actually do this, run these ads. And these ads are a little bit different. That's where, again, right, dead readers come into play. So this is where folks ask, hey, now there's 2 ads, like which one do you do? So very different. If you think about these standard Google ads, they saw your ad, they click on your ad to go on to your website. Now, when they're on your website, they're doing their due diligence, right? Really studying who you are, what you do, how are you different. Then they might check your reviews and they call you. So slightly warmer. These, they haven't vetted you. All they know is you are, right? First of all, you're screened by Google. So for funeral homes, it's called Google Screened. Screened doesn't mean you're better. It just Google did a background check on you to make sure you're legit. Okay. You get this nice green badge here, you're screened. But when they call you, they have no idea who you are. That's the thing. All they know is, oh, you're screened by Google, you got a bunch of reviews. So when they call, if you don't know how to answer these calls, you lose that, right? That call. You just pay for that call. Right. So this is where, again, we'll talk a lot more. We'll learn a lot from Brent, but that's why, again, knowing how to answer calls will be a huge advantage to you. This section so far in most major metro area is still so far cheaper to run these call ads versus these though. I can bet you in 2-3 years later, as most of the firms started running these, then it will be more expensive than these.
Sense.
Okay. So I really highly encourage you, once you guys learn how to really answer these so-called shopping calls. I just bucket it as shopping calls, but they're not. But I would really highly encourage you going into 2026 to really open up these local services ads. Okay. Then let's talk about my favorite section of all, because it's free, which is that local map section. And most of us, right, if we're looking for anything locally based, we tend to look at this section. What Google does is look at, right, what are some of the best firms locally and show them on here. And so far, what we do know is there's really still 3 major signals that Google looks at to see who should be ranked in one of those 3 spots. First is going to be your Google business profile. It's basically a Google listing, right? Each of your physical location has a free Google listing. Starbucks, all the Starbucks has a Google listing. So this Google listing of yours is getting more and more critical to really update it with all of the information. I know a lot of information are on your website, but to get ranked in this section, Google looks at your Google business profile more than your website. So what does this mean? This section here, you can see you can actually update a lot more information these days. Your products, your services. Let's say you're a Jewish firm. On your Google business profile, you didn't say you're a Jewish firm. How does it know, right? So you got to really add in your products, services. You can add in descriptions. It almost, and photos, it almost mimics a mini version of your website these days. It really is. So the more information you put in, the better it is. And these days, it's very, very easy to update. Outrageous simple to update your Google listing live. All you have to do is Google your own brand name. Assumption is your sign in. Then you can see a portal appears directly on the search engine. Now you can edit your profile, edit your products, edit your services, update your photos, right? You can read your reviews, respond to reviews. So it's all very, very simply done on here. Okay, so that's the first signal, is you got to make sure you are updating your Google business profile. Second, not a surprise, guys. I keep on talking about this, is you just got to get more reviews. You must, this is one of those things you cannot shy anymore. You just have to get more reviews, right? Obviously, it's a huge trust signal, which guides, right? If I come back here, it guides who to call first. But the more reviews you have, the more likely you'll be ranked in here. And we'll talk a little more about AI. Same thing, AI. How does AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, all these tools know which firm is the best? It doesn't know. It's still scraping the website, but it's heavily looking at your overall reviews on Google, on Facebook, Yelp, all these other sources to recommend which funeral home to call. So that's why, again, you gotta just not shy away from getting more reviews done. Lastly, is a weird, still a very, very strange algorithm. That's something called citations. So I'll explain this a little bit differently. Back in 2010 or so, the plumbers, they kind of try to hack the system. So what they end up doing is they get a bunch of fake addresses. Because they generally serve multiple cities. They really do. But in order for them to show up in all these different cities, is they got fake addresses. A PO box here, a UPS box here, our friend's address here, so that way they get ranked all these cities. But from Google's terms and conditions, that's against their terms and conditions. But how does Google know whether you generally operate out of that location? Because, for example, some plumbers generally work from their home. They do. Yeah. So how Google ends up knowing and trusting whether you're real or not is a cross-reference with other major directories. If you are on Apple Maps, you're on Yelp, you're on Facebook, you're on these other major directories, then it's basically citing to Google that indeed you physically operate out of that building. You could be around for 60 years and never moved in the same location. That does not mean Google knows you're real, though. That's kind of sad to say. It's trusting these other sources. Right? And finally, organic is down here, which is very often we call this SEO, search engine optimization. This section here is showing up right below the map section here. But this section, this is where folks started saying, hey, is SEO dead? Because more and more folks are using ChatGPT, Gemini, even you go on Google these days, Google has that AI overview at the top. You also have that AI mode you click through. So to answer that, SEO is not dead. It's just that there's new terminology called GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. But all these AI bot, AI tools, they still revert back to the same thing. They look at your website. The better the website, the more content on your website, the more likely, right, it knows more about your business. Your reviews matter a lot, right? So everything still goes back to the same fundamental. It has to pull data from somewhere to know how are you different. So two quick things here, and I will kind of start having a little more fun with Brent here, having a little conversation. So two things I want to talk about on your website. This is more to do with AI. So AI, what we do know so far is there's got to have two distinct pages on your site going forward. How does ChatGPT, Gemini know how are you different? It doesn't know. Like seriously, how does it know? So that's why on your website, in the About Us section, you got to really clearly talk about who you are, what you do, and how are you different. If you go on your About Us page, it doesn't talk about those, then how does ChatGPT knows whether to recommend you or not? So first is please go back and really study your About Us page. Second page, I would really advise you to have going forward is a FAQ page. We all know these ChatGPT, these AI bots, they love Q&A. So you got to have an FAQ page on there. And most likely you already know what questions people ask when they come, right, when they call you. So really have a very, very clear FAQ section and keep populating it. That would really help you get ranked in ChatGPT, these AI tools done. Okay. But all these are, right, as I keep on alluding to, all these are ways to make your phone ring. And this is that's how we reach out to Brent. Our bottleneck is we know how to, right, send traffic to our client's website, make their phone ring. But if they don't know how to answer their phones, unfortunately, you lose. So, Brent. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you, Welton. I always learn a lot. So, and we didn't set up the questions. I mean, it just showed my age that I knew everything went to the yellow pages, but that's fine. But no, it wasn't a setup. So I passed my quiz for the day, so I'm happy. But so I took some notes too. So there's things I'm going to try to point out. Some things you said to make sure we fit it. And I love the point of not just capturing market share, but defending your turf. That it makes so much sense because that is what we're doing on the phone, right? We're keeping them. The people we have are going to call us odds are first. So we keep them. If they are out looking, then and they see that we're still at the top, we keep them again, right? And then we want to make sure that we capture the new ones. And what I liked out of the funnel is we got to meet with families for pre-need and at need. And the bottom of that funnel is the appointment. And if we don't gain it on the phone call, someone else is, right? We're not going to get that appointment without that next step. So it was a perfect segue. We already knew this was it. Well, they're good at making the phone ring, and we love to help you answer them. So I'm going to share some slides. As you can see, we're keeping it as informal as possible. So don't be afraid to ask questions anytime. Make sure I share the right screen here. There we go. Okay, here we go. So my question for all of you, as I kind of mentioned that, is, have you called you lately? Hold on here, get my slides moving. Well, that's great. Are they moving and I'm not seeing it? No. All right. I know. Somebody did acknowledge they're not moving, and I don't understand why. So give me 1 second. You are seeing the full screen, but I don't know why they're not moving. Well, let's see if I click this with them. There we go. Okay. I'll just click over here on the other screen. I'm going to make it easier. So there's a better picture. Some of us, we dread calling ourselves. So we like to have fun at Dead Ringers. Nikki, she loves to have fun and take pictures. So that is Nikki Wiedemann, one of our C-Expertise trainers and coaches. But no, really, what I wanted to ask is, have you really called yourself, knowing that it's kind of October? I thought we should put in something about Dracula if we could. So let me make sure. I have to do this now that we're sharing. I don't know that I shared my sound, so let me make sure my sound setting is ready, which I always forget to do. I don't know on this one if I'm going to be able to do it now, Mandy, and I'm double checking. Here it is. Sorry, I knew I needed to do this ahead of time, but it won't let me do this until I share my screen. So it takes me a minute to make sure I've got the screen moving, and I am not finding it. So dang it. That's what's weird right now. Don't you guys love how we go through all these different platforms and then you're still not sure that any of them work the same? And I use this one all the time, but it is not allowing me to share my video sound. All right, well, sorry. I thought I was going to be able to. We've had trouble every once in a while with Zoho getting that done, and the webinar's got to be different. I will try it, but I don't think it's going to play yet. So let me do this. There's little settings down here. Again.
Okay. Now, the cemetery does have a chapel, but it's kind of, put it this way, if you've seen an old Dracula movie, it's all dusty and dark and musty and nasty. Nobody likes to use it.
So did you guys hear that? Yeah? Okay. All right, sorry. I don't like when little things get in my way. So if you did get to hear that anyway, they were able to say, right? That was some calling, and he said, well, about the chapel to cemetery, have you seen a Dracula movie? That is not the way we want to start whatsoever, right? So I wanted you guys to hear that, because I love playing some of our calls. I wanted to play one because it was Dracula themed, right? I thought it'd be fun for October. I honestly hope none of that was any of you. So I'm sorry, we don't let out the name when we record a call. When we do this, we typically ask permission to make sure we can play them. So I never know who they are, which is fair. But that was somebody in the past few years. So you wouldn't think somebody at a cemetery in the past few years would say that, right? Where I'm going with this, forgot I'm down here today, is ask yourself some of these pitfalls. If do you have some of these pitfalls? Do you feel some of these, right? Is it lack of proper phone skills? Because I never received phone training over the years, right? When I think about it. And as Welton said, we're coming down this funnel to it, and I didn't receive phone training over the years. Is there transparency with pricing that could be occurring, or maybe things aren't clean for our staff right away? Do we have any untrained, inexperienced staff? We've always got somebody new. The other point I like to make is if we don't commit to it all the time, we tend to forget more than we relearn, right? So sometimes it's just going back in and relearning the things we already know. No value prop. Welton made a point, right? How are you different? Are we bringing up those value points? And I'll tell you from our statistics, it's tough for most of us in the profession to acknowledge the good things we do. To me, the simplest one is if you have a retort and you're the only one in town that has it, let everybody know that every day. That your mother never leaves our care, retorts right here on facility. Maybe not the retort, we'll use a different word, right? But yeah, let them know you have that when others don't. But again, we don't do a whole lot of that. So there's another one though, that there's 2 points to that. Not only do you need to put it out there in your marketing, make sure it's on your site, it's everywhere that way. Let's make sure we put it into a script that you talk about it as well. The next one's not exploring the caller's real needs. This one takes a long time, so I'll just leave it out there. I think it's a pitfall. Our average phone call, all right, is for us, there's 1 minute and 4 seconds of hold time of over 50,000 calls. 1 minute for hold time, right? And we know the FTC for us in the funeral home creates a lot of that hold time because maybe we can't answer. The person on the phone can't answer, they have to pass it. We get that. Cemetery, we're going to tend to have someone answer as well, pass on. So we understand it, but the whole call where I'm going, the average call is 4 minutes and 28 seconds. So we're only having a 3 minute and 24-second conversation. How much discussion are we really having? Are we really exploring the caller's needs? So there's the point, right? So they're actually getting some research ahead of time. We know they're going out and looking. It's what Welton's been talking about. They're gaining some, but they want to clarify. So when they call you though, what's the easiest thing for someone to ask so they don't sound as if they're asking a not a very smart question, or should we say a dumb question? Price, because they know that you can give them a real answer on price. That's why it always starts at price. When you think about things with you shop, you might do the same thing as well. And really, there's more questions you have. You just want to start down that path. So put it on ourselves to ask questions to get them to open up, because everyone that calls, they need and want to know more. They want to be educated. So that's the biggest piece. Training that is a little different than what I just do here by just talking about it. So the other one is, right, do we judge or dismissing the call prematurely? The other thing I would say here is if you're in pre-need or in sales, do you try to qualify the sale before you ever get the appointment and do it on the call? That's the same kind of a pitfall we run into. So ask yourself, why aren't we converting all of our calls? And take a look at this one. And I'm not doing this for doom and gloom. It's just if you can answer, hey, we're not converting everything, this could be it. How do you rate yourself in these areas? Take a minute and kind of look through that. And if you need any of the slides, you let us know and we'll get them out to you. And we'll send some keynotes after too. And do you have room for improvement? I believe we all do. I know I do, right? Since I've been with Dead Ringers over the past 5-6 months now, I try to focus on, man, I can't just talk the talk. I got to walk the walk. So I'm trying to change every time when I answer the phone. The other day it rang to my cell. I grabbed it and I was driving in the truck. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have answered here, right? It takes us time to kind of get through it. But as long as it's in our mind and we're always running through it, we'll catch ourselves and have better calls. But does it matter, right? I think Welton's funnel shows it matters because one, we just really going to get the bottom of the next step of the journey. But I want to throw some stats out. There's a lot more. I just put a few up here for us. That way, in case you don't catch what I'm saying, you have a slide to see it. But 80% of customers say the experience the company provides, that means just as much, if not more, as the product. 80%. So you do all these things to get the marketing, to get the call to come in. And then right there can be that chance where we miss that customer experience. 92% of the consumers will abandon a company with a bad CX. Now, question for us is we already have mom in an at need, so we might not leave, but we might not come back. So anytime there's been a bad service or customer experience that's been out there, let's say on an at need, you have a great chance that the other 92% are floating out there for you to grab. So what an opportunity, right? With the marketing to pull it in and with the top customer experience. And then the other one would be 65% of customers, they say the customer experience is more influential than great advertising. If you look at the marketing funnel to bring them there, it's a piece of the marketing funnel. It's all about the experience. It's all about that journey. So it's not like, oh, I need one or the other. They all have to work congruently together, right? So I say, when you think about it, the more I've been here, that Dead Ringers is just really helping you with that next piece of marketing to get that appointment, to get that family in, right? Because the one thing we want to do is get them in the buildings, get them in facilities, get meeting these people. So now I think you could kind of ponder the question and say, all right, but my mind runs away on me, but we could ask ourselves, does that real phone call equate so important to customer experience? Absolutely it does, because it is the one personal piece that's going to happen no matter what. And Welton even said, it's all to get the phone to ring. When we're in a tough situation, we're angry or upset, we want human interaction. We want human to human discussions. I'm here to tell you, AI is never going to be able to do it. It doesn't have sympathy. It doesn't have empathy. It's never going to go there. We are not going to lose this contact. Sure, there's a few people that have some options to start filling things out online, but we 90% of the time still have some form of human conversation. And I don't see a lot of that going away, because think about the telephone when it started, created us human connection. We can talk all over the world to anybody anytime we want. Well, if I want to talk to someone, when that time comes, a funeral director is who I'm going to talk to. And it's going to be one of you that I talk to. So it's that critical of a juncture. All right. A second here, Mandy. I'm going to have to figure out what is going on with these slides today, but they worked fine this morning. Okay. Mandy has a poll that she was going to launch. So we'll go ahead and get this poll launched here. But how many calls do you think you're converting? We just want to see a rough idea from everybody. How many calls do you think you're converting? Mandy, does that pop on screen for us? Or do we have to go to the polls? Welton, are you seeing the poll, or are we just looking at results? Oh, there we go. There we go. My screen's a little different, guys. So now I'm seeing it. Okay. All right. So I should be able to post. Here we go. I'm going to publish the results. All right. We still got a few folks coming in, but it looks like 33%. 33s, 55. Okay. Looks like we're all in. So nobody said that they're converting all of them, right? Because we want to know, how many do you think you're converting? I would say our biggest group is saying we're converting under 50 anyway, right? But 33 is that main number. Well, you guys are sharp. Let's get over here and see what we got for you. Most folks, when they come to us, the very first times that we call before we do any training, not most folks, the average is 32.7 is the amount of calls they win when we first start calling. So that's before any form of training. Since you guys are so wise again, 50.5, so almost your 55%, is our average after our first 12 months of coaching and training, right? When they're engaged in all the pieces. So, and I guess we make that a point. You could be with this 12 months, but if you're not engaged in having the training and coaching, it's probably not going to do a whole lot, right? But so think about that though. So I say to everyone, does it matter? Well, that's a big number to matter. That is really, you're going to start to see those conversions come through. So that gives you that opportunity to look at what's the ROI, as Welton pointed out at the beginning, that net profit, where is that going to flow? And it's just really taking your numbers and calculating, and we can help do that as well. So what I wanted to do in this though, is to give everyone, Welton gave some very basic things to learn and know about marketing, right? With really some of the keys were the online marketing. I want to give each of you a couple tips on the calls. I'm not giving you all the details. So if somebody's on there has been like, I've been through the course, you tell us more than that. We don't have time today for all that. So I just want to give you a few pieces. If I gave you 3 things to help with any call you get, the first one, believe it or not, is the greeting. And I'm going to publish, I'll put all these out here. It's amazing to me how many times folks miss one of these 3: a buffer statement, the business name, and your name. So many times we call and it's just Thomas Funeral Home. How about, thank you for calling Thomas Funeral Home. This is Brent. How may I assist you? Entirely different. And I'm not giving you exact words. I'm just saying, remember the buffer statements. I know some will say, Thomas Funeral Home, this is Bill. How may I assist you? Again, it's the piece of buffer statement makes a huge difference. And definitely getting your name in there a couple times will start to make a difference. So where I'm going to is, not everybody's doing it. If you start doing it, you have an advantage, a competitive advantage. Okay. Number 2 is names. We never want to forget a name, but here's the thing. Provide your own name to the caller, right? If we should have done it right up front. Might be another way as a second question, but right after that, right? You can repeat it again. Then ask the caller's name at the beginning of the call. Did you know that 70% of the calls out of a 50,000 call survey we did, 70% of the time, never asked for the caller's name? When you think of that, they're calling because they're in that personal situation. They want human interaction, right? But we don't ask their name. When I ask you the next one is, think about when someone does ask you your name, right? I mean, Welton and I use each other's names. We both like when we hear them. It feels good, right? So ask that name, and it's not that challenging, right? May I ask who's calling, right? And somebody could be, you're looking for information on cremation. Well, may I ask who I'm speaking to first. It's that simple. Now we have the next question. If it's at need, we want to ask, right? Do we have a death that occurred, and ask that name and on, right? Just so that we know where that call's going. Unless it's been sent to us directly on a pre-need, then we might not. We know we don't need to ask that because that's already been determined. Next, though, is I go too far. I have the at need slide here. I forgot that I put it in. Ask for the name of that loved one, right? So when you do know it's an at need, make sure you ask that name. And I actually had a call I reviewed last week with someone, and they said they literally asked. They called him the person who's the person who passed. Like, you literally took the time to say what was going to be the spot in the conversation, mom's name, Mary or mom, and instead we said the person who passed. I'm thinking, wow, we were so disconnected. So anyway, if that's your pattern, try to change that one. But 60% of the time, we forget to ask for the name of the loved one who passed. They're in that situation. We didn't ask the name. Not that we're going to use all the time. The other suggestion I'll give you there is if you call your dad father, or you call your dad dad, they call him father, then reference your father, right? You kind of want to go with the word they use. All right. And I know this sounds really simple, but you'd be amazed. You're seeing the numbers, how much it's missed. And then use those names I mentioned before throughout the conversation, and then repeat your own name at closing. 30% of the surveys that we took, 30% of professionals never repeated their own name. Again, especially if you're in sales, you want to make sure you know that they can get back with you, right? Even at need, it just has a better feeling when they know who to get back to. So check that we're not missing much on chat here. Okay. Sorry, I love seeing all the pop-ups for chat. So I'm like, it's squirrels for me. It's just something else to go look at. So, okay. So there's the key there for you on names. Next, I just jump into the closing. Those of you, we actually have a good 10 steps that go in here when it comes to the call excellence. Just picked a couple pieces here because this is one that I see a lot that when, and as our research has shown this as well. Express the gratitude. It's so easy just to say thank you for the opportunity to serve you, or thank you for calling us today. Right? A lot of times I just hear thanks. There's more to it, right? Show them your gratitude and your sincerity, especially if your competitor might not do it. So, another one is thank you for the opportunity to serve you today. I want you to know we truly appreciate that you have called us today. The other piece you can put in there, right? Make sure somewhere in that process you've said your name. Again, this is, Mary. Again, my name's Brent. I really appreciate. Move down that path. The other closing technique that I want you to really think about is the follow-up. And I'm not giving you an exact how to put it in. A lot of that happens with we have to really get to know the structure, but offer a follow-up. I'm going to tell you right now, out of all of those out there, we see about 11 to 18% on average do a follow-up. One, you have caller ID. So if you do, just Mary, is the number you're calling in case we get disconnected, is the number you're calling from a good number to call you back at? Boom, you now have a name and a phone number. Those of you in sales, that's huge. right? So then why not near the end of the conversation say, okay, Mary, do you have any other questions, right? So we're closing down. Mary, with your permission, I'd like to get your email address so I could email you our price list and a link to our website. Something just that simple. If you want to go into, here's the things we discussed. We have an appointment tomorrow at 2:00. You can do all that. I'm just trying to give you something real simple, but that alone just gave you an email too. And tell you what, I love putting names and emails in my CRM. I want to know where you are and who you are. So now but by offering that follow-up and doing that and sending the email, I just told you, it's rare that we see more than 18%. You have a chance to stand out in front of everybody else now. So, all right, I need to move on and watch my time here. Okay. Question I'm going to offer, or the question you would have and me to explain to you is, how does all this occur? How does Dead Ringers do what we do? I'm just going to tell you it's reinforced learning. Here's the quote. I'm going to look right down here where it says, without reinforced, 70% of you are going to begin forgetting what Welton and I talked about today within 24 hours. So what we call one and done. How many times have we paid folks or gone to conferences and we sit there and we're going to learn something, unless we're really intently into it, and a couple things we write down, most of it we start to forget in the first day. 90% we forget within a week. So that's where we're at. We don't want to do one and done. That's why we do a 1-year process, typically longer, spread it out. We do it with coaching, with online tools, all different ways, right? Because you show them, they want to see it, show them how you did it. They want to hear it again, see it, show it. We just continually move through that path. So my final page, if I can ever remember how to click. This is why you get Welton for IT, not me. I'll teach you how to talk, not move a mouse. Anyway, here's some results I just want to share. Doesn't work. This is from our growth. These are our growth reinforced learning growth plans that it takes longer than a year. Folks with more than 3 locations, they're seeing a 20% revenue, increase in their revenue, 39% increase in the caller confidence in choosing them. That's the whole key. Welton's bringing them. We're doing the marketing, so they choose us. We got one final piece to do. So for those of you that want to say, maybe I'm missing, how do I take that step? We're just showing you here that the proof is there. It works. Or start doing your own training on phone communications and make sure it's reinforced over time. Funeral homes with 1 to 2 locations, it's 20% increase in the revenue, 17% in the caller confidence. Cemeteries are seeing a 15% increase in revenue and 22% increase in confidence. Again, it's the reinforced piece. But I think what it really comes down to everything Welton was just saying. Everything we do to build the business, to do websites, everything comes down to that phone call. And human nature tells us that too. So just want to pass that piece along before I now get back to just a discussion with everybody. And there we go. All right. Well, hopefully that gave you a few tips. I learned a lot from Welton already. Every time I go through, I learn something new, Welton. But hopefully we married the two up okay for you. But if not, you call us anytime. We're really trying to do a lot together to learn, to make sure we understand what you're going through with Ring and your marketing and how they all fit together. So, well,
Brent, one last key takeaway. Most of our clients are traditional firms, and many of them did open up a direct cremation, right, brand, and they typically think magically having e-commerce on there, online arranger, people are just gonna do everything online. that to me is I kind of know that still, yes, they do check out only after they actually call you and have a conversation with you. Then they go online and did that arrangement themselves. So even that's it's wishful thinking that everything could be done digitally.
I remember, I think eFuneral had similar numbers as well, right? And that's why, if anything, they generated more leads, even though some did arrange there. Most of it got them so far, and then they would call the funeral home.
Exactly. So
right.
You still got to know how to answer the phone.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's what, so we want to help you guys with any way we can. There's so much more information I'm sure the two of us want to continue to share, but we can only share so much, right? Anybody have any questions? I got to jump back to chat. I didn't see a bunch jumping up there. Okay. Oh. All right. Anybody have any other questions, thoughts for us? All right. Well, then I think we're almost at time. We will send out a recording. So we'll be recording this for you. And then we try to put together kind of a takeaway list, right? Some of the key points. We'll send that out probably later next week as well, or by the end of the week or early next week. But the recordings will come out here probably tomorrow. So, well, we appreciate it. And Welton, I really appreciate you jumping on with us today. I love seeing the funnel. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And both of us will be at NFDA, so look forward to seeing you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to see everybody there. Come by and see us. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.